Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today for Salesforce Fundamentals for Nonprofits. Hopefully this is the webinar you intended to join. If not, we will see you at a later date, but we're happy to be joining you. My name is Ann Young. I am the Community Engagement Specialist for Salesforce.org, and I will be presenting the webinar and providing a demo today. And I am here with Ann Crawford. Ann, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ann Crawford. I'm a success content developer, and I will be in the background doing Q&A and a little bit on the webinar doing Q&A today. Great to be with you.
Thanks, Ann. Happy to have you here. Before I begin, just a quick note that you should base your purchasing decisions only on products and services that are currently available. Before we get started officially, I want to share some quick logistics. Please use the GoToWebinar panel to ask questions. We'll be monitoring it throughout the webinar to make sure all of your questions get answered. So let's test it right now. Everyone, please pop into the question widget and tell me where you're calling in from. All right, Lizzie from San Francisco, Deacon Ted Schreck from Memphis, Tennessee, Suzanne from Alexandria, Rachel from Greensboro, North Carolina. All right, I know there's a few more of you on there being quiet or still looking for the question widget. All right, Becky, where's Becky calling in from? All right, and Ashley from Dallas, Texas. Oh, Becky from Carbondale, Colorado. All right. Well, thank you. It looks like all or most of you have located the question widget. So throughout the webinar, if you have questions that come up about what we're talking about, you can go ahead and ask in that. And the other Ann will be standing by to answer your questions and may even pop in live to talk a little bit more in detail for those of you who have questions that we think might benefit the group. Also, we'll be recording this session and you'll be receiving the recording and this deck in an email after the webinar, so make sure to look for that. The Getting Started group in the Power of Us Hub community is where the conversation will continue. So ask questions there to receive additional updates and be part of the ongoing conversation. This webinar is the first in a series of webinars to help you get up and running on Salesforce. Today, we'll be focusing on the basics of Salesforce and the Nonprofit Success Pack. In the coming weeks, we'll cover setting up Salesforce for fundraising, importing your data into Salesforce, and making sure Salesforce is easy for your colleagues to use. So you are here at the beginning of your journey. Consider yourself that adorable little astro with your backpack and your walking stick ready to go. So now that you know a little bit about us and what we're going to talk about today, we want to know a little bit about you. This helps us tailor our conversation to your audience. So I'm going to pop a quick poll up for you. And I'll give you about, I don't know, 30 seconds, a minute to answer the poll. All right. Looks like 90% of you, let's see. 100% voted. All right, I love it. I will close the poll and share the results here. It looks like the majority of you on this call are smaller organizations, so in that 0 to 24 employees, and then a couple of you from really large organizations. So thanks for sharing that. It helps us kind of decide what types of information to share and what types of questions you might have come up throughout the webinar. So thanks so much. So before we get any further, let's make sure we're all on the same page and know exactly what Salesforce is. For this webinar, we're going to assume that you have Salesforce with the Nonprofit Success Pack. So what does that mean? One way to think about it is like purchasing the base model house in a new housing development. When you walk into the model home, you see a house with the standard layout. And since this is a nice housing development, it has most of what you need. You just need to select your fixtures and finishes, and then you're ready to move in. What you see in this diagram is Salesforce with NPSP, or the Nonprofit Success Pack. It's move-in ready with the capabilities you see here: fundraising, communications, case management, volunteer management, reporting, and relationship management. That's too much to cover in one webinar. So to keep things manageable, today we'll be focusing on relationship management. But we wanted to point out that there are a lot of other features that are also included, and never fear, we'll be covering some of these features in upcoming webinars. All of the houses in your new neighborhood look alike when you move in, but after a while, people start to make their houses their own. One neighbor may add a new deck, while another will put in a picket fence, or change out the gas heating system for a heat pump, or even add a new room. With Salesforce, you can do the same thing. There are many ways to customize. You can install an app from the App Exchange, or build out a custom app that you design yourself. Or you can use Process Builder or workflow rules to automate some of your work and ensure data consistency. As we've just seen, Salesforce NPSP includes a lot, but it can't do everything. We want to specifically call out some of the things that NPSP does not include, just so you are aware. NPSP does not include online payment processing through your website. It also does not include auction management. You can send up to 2,000 individual emails per day through Salesforce, but NPSP does not include email marketing automation. There are options for all of these on the App Exchange, but they may come at an additional cost. Check out the App Advice and Consumer Reports group in the Power of Us Hub for more information and recommendations from other nonprofits. Another thing to be aware of is that Salesforce is not meant to be an accounting software. Most nonprofits continue to use QuickBooks or other accounting system of record outside of Salesforce. Work with your accountant to determine what information he or she needs from Salesforce reports, or you can check out accounting solutions on the App Exchange. And before we get, are there any questions for anyone from the group?
Hi, Anne. We don't have any quite yet.
Okay, well, hopefully everybody's still awake out there, and Anne can answer your questions and is standing by. So now we're going to talk about navigating Salesforce. When you log in, hi, sorry about that, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me now. When you log into Salesforce for the first time, it should look something like this. Let's review briefly, and then we'll look at a little more detail later in our demo. This is your NPSP homepage. First, we see the words Nonprofit Success Pack in the top left corner. That's the name of our current app. If you click on the app picker keyboard icon just to the left, you can select other applications. Next to that, you'll see a series of tabs across the top. These represent the objects in Salesforce. We'll talk about that in more detail in just a minute. Next, we see a large Nonprofit Success Pack panel in the middle. The big blue button will take you to some great resources and videos to help you get started. Next to this panel, we see a custom chart to help us gauge our fundraising progress. Next, we see some panels to help you manage today's events and activities, as well as post in Chatter. Chatter is a powerful collaboration tool that empowers employees to connect, collaborate, share files, data, and expertise all in real time. And last but not least, we see a panel with our recent items. This displays the records we created, viewed, or edited most recently. Very handy. In the last slide, I mentioned that the tabs across the top of the page, which represent objects in Salesforce. Let's talk about this terminology a bit more. You're probably familiar with Microsoft Excel. On the top, we see the Excel terminology, a worksheet, column, and row of information. On the bottom, you can see the same information, but shown with Salesforce lingo, an object, field, and record. We'll be using Salesforce language throughout this webinar. First, let's talk about what we mean by a relational database. An object, or tab depending on its context, is a data table in your Salesforce database. Think of it like a worksheet in Excel. In this diagram, we see the objects in our database, each shown by a tab across the top. We have contacts, accounts, leads, and opportunities, and each object holds a different kind of information. When you drill down, each object has a field that holds lots of different types of data, texts, numbers, currencies, formulas, and so on. Think of it like columns in Excel. In this diagram, the fields we see are account name, our primary contact, and household phone. Last, we have records. Once we've set up our objects and our fields, we can enter records. Think of it like the rows in Excel. These are the individual entries that hold our data. In this slide, you can see that there are 4 records, each holding information about a different account. All right, let's dive in and take a look at this in real time. Everybody still awake out there? Any questions, Anne?
No questions so far, Anne. I think everyone's ready for the demo.
It's convenient that we both have the same name, so everyone knows that you just ask for Anne. So here we are in your NPSP instance, and I just want to go through what is on the page. So let's start from the very tip top here on the left. This is your, or in the middle rather, sorry. This is our global search functionality. This searches all the records in Salesforce. Notice that when you click on it, it shows your recent items. So recently I have looked at open opportunities by stage, Gigi Young, who is a contact, the Blue Company, and various items that I have pulled up. Next over here, the little star is one of my favorite features. It's your favorites. And it'll set any record that you frequently use as a favorite so you can easily get to it quickly. So I often look up Daniel Martinez, so he's right there, Acme Corporation, and this is a report I look at often. Also, when you're in any of these records, you can click the star to add it to your favorites, much like you would do in a browser window. It's similar to that. Next, we have this little question mark. Oh, sorry, I skipped one. This little quick add here is just what it sounds like. It quickly creates contacts, households, and tasks from anywhere. So if you're on the fly and you don't want to go through, this is a way to kind of easily add your data. Next, the little question mark is exactly what you would think it is. It is help and training for when you have questions. There are lots of resources for support here. Salesforce help and training is product documentation. Trailhead is a free online learning resource. And also, we hope that you never have to do this, but if you needed to file a Salesforce support ticket, it's here for you. This little gear icon next is when you first get started in Salesforce, you'll hear a lot about the setup menu. Setup is where your organization's admin, that may be you, likely is many of you on the call today, sets up manages users and permissions, customizes page layouts, and customizes fields. Next, this bell here is you will see your chatter notifications. So you can see Anne mentioned me on a recent record. So I would want to take a look at that. The next is your personal settings. So I had intended to add a profile picture before I started here. I do not look like a cartoon version of Astro. I am a human being. But so you can add your photo here and change your personal settings. So let's move on over to this, what I think looks like the keypad on a phone, which may be dating me. And this, if you click on this keypad icon, you'll see all the apps that are available to you. Each app holds a different set of tabs that display across the top. You can also search apps or items and tabs. Just scroll down. You can also reorder the apps, so the ones that you use more often are toward the top or wherever you might use. So let's close out of here. Next, you'll see a bunch of tabs here: chatter, accounts, contacts, and each tab represents a different object. So we just talked a little bit about that when we were going over the terminology. And then if we scroll down, I talked about this in the beginning, this big blue button connects you to some handy resources for nonprofits and for users and admins with things like training videos and documentation and various things that you'll use to get you started, and also links you to the Power of Us Hub, which is our online community and network of help. So let me head back here. Right here you have today's events and tasks. If I had something loaded that I was going to do today into my calendar that was synced to Salesforce, I would see it here. Or if I had a task set for myself or that another user set for me, it would display here. Over here is the assistant, which will show you important updates throughout the course of your day. You'll see leads that are assigned to you, opportunities that need your attention. And then over here is Chatter. Right here, so you could share a Chatter update about what's going on and mention another user and talk about share a resource or anything that you might want to do in Chatter. So really quickly, I want to show something in the global search here. By default, Salesforce first displays the object that you access most often. You can also display other objects on the left, app launcher and rearrange your tiles. So if you see here, I access Daniel Martinez often. So when I click in DA, it's going to put him up here because he's someone that I search often. All right, hopefully that was helpful to just have you understand the layout of the page. And any questions that came through about the demo?
Hey, Ann, I just have one question. How do we move some of these boxes around the screen on the home page? His is not looking as friendly. That I think if you go into the app picker on the left, and then you can drag and drop them. My screen is not, I'm not displaying my screen. Anne, can you pop into on the left on the app picker?
Yeah, so if we go in here to the app picker.
And then you can drag and drop. You should be able to drag and drop any of those.
Yeah, you should drag and drop these into your home page.
Okay.
And Anne can point you to some documentation that'll help you walk you through that process. All right, let's hop back into the webinar if there are no more burning questions. All right, hopefully everyone is seeing the webinar again. Now that we've seen how to navigate in Salesforce, let's talk about Salesforce's core architecture. Salesforce was built as a business-to-business platform. It was originally designed to help businesses sell goods and services to other companies or accounts. So in standard Salesforce, all customers, who we call contacts, and sales deals, which we call opportunities, relate to an account. There is no direct relationship between individual customer contacts and the opportunities for their accounts. A contact is only as important as someone who is related to a particular account. These are the standard Salesforce objects that are used by the Nonprofit Success Pack. What we mean by standard is that these objects are included in every instance of Salesforce worldwide. These are the core objects, so it's important to understand them. Contacts are individual stakeholders in your organization and must be connected to an account. As a best practice, we recommend that all contacts are in a household account, but there may be some circumstances where it makes sense for a contact to be in an organization account instead. Examples of types of contacts include donors, members, volunteers, clients, and partners. Accounts are households, companies, or other organizations that you have a relationship with. In NPSP, there are two main types of accounts you can create: households and organizations. Household accounts are used to track, surprise, donor, or member households. A household is where one or more people live. A household account is automatically created when you create a contact. Once you have created one household, you can also add additional household members. We'll see how this works in the demo. Organization accounts are being used are used for any other accounts such as funders, corporate donors, vendors, schools, or other business entities. Opportunities are potential revenue generating activities like donations or grants that you wish to track until they're received and or closed. Regardless of how long it may take a donation to come in, using opportunities is a great way to track stages over time. Opportunities could include donations from a person or company, grants from a funder or government institution, memberships from a person or household, or sales of merchandise related to your organization. Activities are used to keep track of any kind of communication or action, such as meetings, tasks, phone calls, or emails. Each of these can be stored in Salesforce as activities and related to leads, contacts, accounts, campaigns, and opportunities. Activities are a great way to see who is following up with potential donors and what they've talked about on past calls, lunch meetings, or in emails. Salesforce can integrate with your email and calendaring systems. For more on that, see which email integration product is right for my company in Help and Training. Campaigns are typically used in the nonprofit context for annual appeals and other fundraising efforts to track how much money you've raised in a particular campaign, direct mailings or email blasts to track who you're sending information to, large events, galas, and so on, to track who RSVP'd, attended, spoke, etc. Email newsletters to track who you've sent e-newsletters to and what action they took. Did they open it, click it, unsubscribe? Advocacy or program outreach to track who you've reached out to and what action they took. For example, did they sign your petition? Leads are prospective stakeholders in your organization. They may be interested in your organization, but don't have a deep enough relationship to consider a contact quite yet. Not all organizations use leads, but even if you don't plan to use leads, you should be familiar with them, as some email marketing platforms bring in new signups as leads rather than contacts. Examples of leads include someone who signed up for an email newsletter, but you have no information about them, someone who downloaded a white paper from your website, a community member who came to your monthly friend-raising open house, or someone who signed a petition circulated by your organization. There are people out there that you want to get to know better and hopefully convert to a contact. Decision to use or not to use leads. To use leads or to not to use leads is one of the first decisions you should make when implementing Salesforce. Some organizations choose not to use leads at all. They simply keep everyone as a contact for simplicity's sake. Some organizations don't have a choice because, again, like I said, some email marketing solutions require that you use leads. But in any case, you should understand the trade-offs. Nonprofits considering implementing leads may wish to consider the following factors in the decision. There should be a clear or several clear use cases, and you'll need to establish criteria for converting leads to contacts. Staff will need to be trained to understand the difference between leads and contacts. Reporting can be more complicated because you'll need to gather metrics from both leads and contacts. And lastly, you need to manage configuration of a more complex business process. If you'd like to find out what drives the decision at other nonprofits, we encourage you to ask in the Power of Us Hub. And you can search. There have been lots of conversations about this in the past too, so feel free to search and read those other conversations in the Hub. Now that we know the standard Salesforce objects and how nonprofits typically use them, let's see how we use NPSP to manage constituent relationships in households. Before we dive in too deeply though, Anne, is there any other questions we want to answer live here?
Hi, Anne. No, I think we should just move right in. The questions we've had, you are going to answer in the next section.
Awesome. Thanks, Anne. Keep them coming, folks. At a nonprofit, a contact can be related to your organization in many ways. She can be a donor, volunteer, a participant, a board member, or an employee, or any combination of those things. In a nonprofit, we typically want to be able to track donations from both individuals and organizations, and we want to look at giving on the individual and household level. We want to see how a contact is related to their household, their employer, and any other of the organizations that are important to them. So what you have as nonprofit customers is the same as standard Salesforce as any other Salesforce customer in the world, with the addition of the Nonprofit Success Pack. NPSP sits on top of the standard Salesforce Enterprise Edition and helps you manage all of these relationships and make sure donations are attributed to the proper account. So you see here that we are using the same objects, accounts, contacts, and opportunities, but we are using them in a way that's more aligned with how nonprofits work. We recommend that all contacts are in household accounts. By putting your contacts in household accounts, you can easily see the ways a contact might be connected to your nonprofit. Our contacts are connected with many organizations, and we want to track that in Salesforce. For that, we'll use the NPSP affiliations object. In this example, we can see at a glance that our contact, Daniel Martinez, is connected with several different organizations. First, there's his employer, the Acme Corporation. Since Daniel works for Acme Corporation, we'll designate that affiliation as his primary affiliation. Then there's our nonprofit, the Grumpy Cat Alliance. Daniel serves on our board. We also see Glick's Furniture, where he used to work, and the Equal Foundation, where he served as a board member. Our contacts are also connected to many other people. NPSP relationships connect one contact to another contact. Some of these may be friends, board members, or other household members. We see here that Daniel Martinez has a couple of connections. First, we see his relationship to his friend, Alma Mahoney, who our development officer is interested in cultivating as a major donor. Maybe Daniel could make that introduction. We also see Daniel's daughter, Penelope Martinez, who is one of our program participants. The relationship view lets us see all of Daniel's relationships. So how do you keep relationships and affiliations straight? In a nutshell, relationships connect one person to another person. This could be a family relationship, a personal relationship, or a business connection. Affiliations connect a person to an organization. This could be a business, school, church, or any other type of organization. We can designate one affiliation as a primary affiliation. Generally, we recommend using this to track a contact's employer. Now that we understand relationships and affiliations, let's see how this works with donations and grants. Here's a basic example of a family that lives in a single household and has made a donation. The two contacts in the household are John Smith and Jane Smith, and they belong to the Smith household account. Jane has made a $100 donation to our nonprofit, which is stored in the opportunity object. When the donation is created from the Jane Smith contact, the opportunity contact role of donor is automatically created, and the donation is associated with Jane Smith's contact and Jane's household account. By default, the NPSP will also give Jane's spouse, John, a soft credit for the donation since John is a member of Jane's household. This feature is customizable in the NPSP settings, and we'll cover this in more detail on our next webinar. Here's some more examples. The leftmost example is very similar to the previous one. You have donors or clients associated with a household who purchase a membership or donate to your organization. In the next example, in the middle panel, we have a program officer. He is a contact that has his own household, but he is also affiliated with his employer, a foundation. When you create an account for an organization, such as those who provide grant funding, connect any contacts using affiliations. The primary affiliation is usually where someone works. You can see that in this example. The program officer can donate personally to the nonprofit through his household, and also his foundation can provide a grant. Finally, in the rightmost example, we have an employee at a corporate sponsor. Again, this person can donate personally to the nonprofit via their household, and their company can also provide sponsorships, event tickets, or other benefits. The employee is affiliated with the company they work for via their primary affiliation on their contact record. The examples we just looked at show how household accounts can help you manage your personal and organization fundraising. The household accounts are also vital for keeping track of where your contacts live so that you can reach out to them for fundraising and event management efforts. The Nonprofit Success Pack helps you keep all of your addresses up to date. Whether your staff updates a contact's mailing address or the household's billing address, NPSP automatically syncs the address across the account and all related contacts. The most recent address is automatically set as the default address. We aren't demoing this here, but you can also set a different address for a particular contact by checking the address override box on a contact's record. Say if you have a board member who prefers to receive mailings at work as opposed to at home. By default, NPSP sets the household name, formal and informal greetings, according to the preferences you set in NPSP settings. But if the defaults you selected don't work in a particular case, you can customize your household name and greetings in the Manage Household interface. The last thing we need to cover before we get into our demo is adding users. When you set up your trial, you created one user out of your 10-seat licenses. At this point in your getting started journey, you may want to add a few users from your organization as collaborators. As we saw in our demo, you can navigate to setup to create new users. A few key points as you create users. For email, use the real email address. Username needs to be in the form of an email address, but does not need to be a real email address. Generally they are, but you may run into this if a particular user has another Salesforce license at a different organization. For user license, choose Salesforce. For profile, choose System Administrator for anyone you want to be able to make configuration changes to your organization. Choose a different profile, such as Executive Management or Fundraising and Development for others. Check the Marketing User box if you want this user to be able to create campaigns. For more information, see the User Management Trailhead module. All right, let's jump back in and show you how it's done. Anne, any questions before I dive into the demo?
Nope, this is great. You're answering all the questions as we go.
Great, thanks, Anne. And feel free to keep them coming if things aren't clear, everyone. So now that we've talked a little bit about it, let's do this, people. So first thing we want to do is create a contact. One way to create a contact on the fly is to use this plus button over here that we talked about, the new contact and global actions. But before we create a contact, I call it hashtag search first. You always want to search to make sure this person isn't already in your system. You want to be sure you're not creating duplicates and muddying up your data. So I'm going to add Sarah Smith. Sarah, let's see, I see a Sarah Zeitz, a Sarah Gallegos, a Sarah Bowden. Let's see if there is a Sarah Smith. Okay. No, there isn't. It's showing me another Sarah, but there's not a Sarah Smith. So we can go ahead and create you. Keep in mind that global actions will give you that abbreviated set of fields. So if you want to enter full contact data, navigate to the Contacts tab and click New right here on the right. Now you'll see all of the fields that you might want to enter. The last name is the only required field that you have. So if you just happen to know that you want to add someone later on and all you have is their last name, go ahead and do that. But you should try to get as much information as you can just to keep your data nice and clean. So we're adding Sarah Smith here, and I happen to know her email address. Sarah at 1234.com, as well as her mobile number. So it's great to have her there. Okay. So now we will go ahead and click Save. And our circles will go around and we get the green box that says the contact was created. And now that we've created our contact, let's take a look at the Smith household that was automatically created when we saved the contact. If we want to add another contact to the house, we can click the Manage Household button. And I want to add Sarah's partner, Cal. All right, we're thinking. So now we can add Cal Smith. If he existed, he would show up here as a contact and you would just click the plus sign. But we will see, oh, he does already exist. Let's go ahead and, since Cal does already exist, just for the sake of adding someone new to the household, let's add Callie Smith, who is Cal and Sarah's child. So we'll go ahead and add the new contact, Professor Callie Smith. They're very proud of the accomplishments that Callie has made in her life, all the way to becoming a professor. We're going to add her as a new contact here, and she will become a part of the Smith household. So Sarah and Professor Callie Smith households. And then the main thing in Salesforce that I always tell people, if you don't remember to do anything, always remember to click save after you make any change so that it saves in your system. Other things you can do in the Manage Household tab over here is change the household address, add phone numbers, and customize greetings. So different things that you might want to do. We talked about changing the address here. So now we're going to add Sarah's employer, the Orange Company. But first, we'll need to enter the Orange Company into Salesforce by going to the Accounts tab and clicking New. Okay, so it's a new organization, not a household account. Remember, we're adding her employer, the Orange Company. And then we will go ahead, and if we were really doing this, we would want to add as much information as we possibly have into this tab here. But since we're just doing it to show you how it works, we'll just go ahead and click Save. As we talked about earlier, an organization account is any account that is not a household. So like an employer, a foundation, a school, any businesses that you interact with. So now that we've created the Orange Company, we'll add it to Sarah's record as her primary affiliation. So let's navigate back to Sarah's account record by going to Contacts and clicking on Sarah Smith. Now click on her record and scroll primary affiliation here and this little edit feature here. And we want to add her primary affiliation. And since we were just in the Orange Company, it's guessing that I might want to choose that. But if it weren't showing up, we could search for it as well. So click on the Orange Company and then click Save. And that's her primary affiliation. If we need to create other affiliations, we can create them by clicking the New Affiliation button on the drop-down list. Let's just say I just got off the phone with Sarah and we talked about the possibility of her and Callie giving a donation. So let's log this call. So we want to go ahead and call, and maybe, I think it's a great idea to come up with a naming convention so that these are organized in a nice, clean way. But we will say a call, I'm just going to do call 12-4, which is today's date. Discussed the possibility of a $100 donation over the holidays. And then you would want to put in there any pertinent information that you would want for next time that you talk to Sarah, just so that the conversation flows nicely and you're remembering all the important information that's going on with Sarah. So then we would click Save. And then the next thing I want to do here is I want to you know, when I was at lunch with Ann Crawford, we had a conversation about the Smiths and about the possibility of them donating. And I want to be sure that she knows where to find all of the information. So I'm going to chatter Ann Crawford on this record by hitting the @ and then choosing Ann and saying, hey, Ann, this is the potential donor we discussed, and then clicking share. And then this will alert Ann in her chatter notifications that I want her to take a look at this contact record. So she's alerted to it, and she can follow this record if she wants to by clicking the plus button here and keep track of everything that's going on here. All right, Ann, any questions about this demo?
We had a couple questions about users. I think I answered them as they came in. We're going to share at the end some slides, and they do have some Trailhead references. So for anything you wanted greater depth, I just want to call that out to people.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Ann. And yeah, keep the questions coming as they pop into your head, and we'll hop back into the presentation. So I love what this next slide is called. Boring but important. We've covered a lot today, but we want to mention a couple of more things that you need to know. So first, if you ever need to file a technical support ticket with Salesforce, you'll need to know what kind of licenses that you have. When you're accepted into the Power of Us program, your nonprofit will receive your very own secure Salesforce instance with 10 Lightning Enterprise Edition Sales and Service Cloud licenses. The license is attached to a single user. So with 10 licenses, you could have 10 users logged into your Salesforce org at one time. If you need additional licenses or products, you can purchase them at a deep discount from salesforce.org. What we call your org at Salesforce is the virtual space provided to an individual customer of Salesforce. Your org includes all of your data and applications and is separate and secure from all other orgs. In addition to your 10 Enterprise Edition Sales and Service Cloud licenses, you can choose among 3 trials: the Standard Enterprise Edition, the Nonprofit Success Pack, or the Higher Education Data Architecture. The NPSP and HIDA are apps created by Salesforce that sit on top of the native architecture. NPSP and HIDA give you additional features that help you with common industry-specific functions like fundraising. Most of you are probably on the Nonprofit Success Pack. So that's a long way of saying if you ever need to file a support ticket with Salesforce, it's helpful to know what licenses you have. You have Enterprise Edition Sales and Service Cloud licenses, and optionally NPSP, or if you're a higher ed customer, HIDA. So with every new system, questions come up. And when a question comes up, you want to get the help that you need right away. Generally, when you have a question, we recommend that you first ask your question in the Getting Started group in the Power of Us Hub. The Getting Started group is monitored by Salesforce.org employees and community members who are all eager to help, sometimes within minutes, seconds even from time to time. Occasionally, the answer you get may be that you need to file a technical support ticket for that. Also, certain features need to be activated by Salesforce support. Salesforce basic support response time is generally 24 to 48 hours. If you have Premier support, you will get a quicker response. For more information, see How to Create a Technical Support Case with Salesforce knowledge article in the Power of Us Hub. So some additional resources. Trailhead, we love Trailhead. And actually through the end of the year, there's a cool contest going on with Trailhead. And as you receive badges, you will get some special recognition and prizes. Trailhead is an online interactive training tool that's available to you at no cost. We recommend that you check out the Salesforce Fundamentals for Nonprofits Trail Mix that includes the resources from this webinar. And then try some of the other great trail mixes available for both admins and your end users. Besides Trailhead, there's a lot more. But wait, there's more, double more. When you join the Salesforce Power of Us program, you're joining a huge community. You will also have support from Salesforce.com, who primarily creates and manages the Salesforce technology. Some support from all of us at Salesforce.org. We're not all named Anne, though, as you might think from this webinar. We oversee the Power of Us program and make sure you get the discounted products and 10 licenses at zero cost. We also award grants and manage the Power of Us Hub. There's also the Salesforce Partner Community. These are external agencies certified by Salesforce, many of whom can be hired to help you implement or customize Salesforce. The partner community also includes app developers. And then there's the huge connected community of customers. These are individuals like yourselves who use Salesforce at their nonprofit and education institutions. Via our online portal, the Power of Us Hub, customers can collaborate on solving problems and share best practices. We also have community groups for every kind of user: nonprofit user groups, women in technology groups, developer groups, and more. We have in-person and virtual groups worldwide. The point being, when you join the Power of Us program, you're getting way more than just 10 free licenses. You're getting state-of-the-art technology and access to a huge network of people who are helping each other advance their missions, scale, and become more efficient using Salesforce. We'll be sending you these slides after the webinar, which will have links to all of these resources. But please check out these additional resources on your journey towards better donor engagement. For Premier Success customers, we suggest that you check out our accelerators, limited short-term engagements with Salesforce employees that are designed to speed up your time to value. If you are a standard Success customer, that's anyone who has not purchased Premier, then you should join these amazing groups in the Power of Us Hub. You can also join our Circles of Success, which are interactive small group clinics on a variety of adoption topics. Finally, if you get stuck at some point and need a little advice, the Power of Us Hub community runs office hours every Friday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Pacific time. This is a live session with a team of experts from the nonprofit community where you can ask questions, solicit feedback on your ideas, and collaborate around solutions. We are also now regularly offering higher ed and K-12 office hours, as well as office hours in Spanish and at EMEA-friendly times. For more information, go to the office hours page in the hub. All right, we've got about 12 more minutes here to answer your questions. Anne, is there anything that's come in that we feel like we should answer live?
One of the things that, since we have time, that came up earlier was the difference between a contact and a user. Like, a lot of people are wanting to use Salesforce to manage their programs. And should program participants come in as leads or contacts? And there's not, like with anything in Salesforce, there's not like a yes or no answer, but some of the things to think about. If it's someone that you have a tight relationship, a participant that you're going to be tracking over time, and have an ongoing relationship, you probably want to keep them to be a contact. A lead would be really for people who maybe you just don't have a lot of information about yet. You might or may not, if you look at your records in a year, you might or might not have any relationship with them in a year's time. Hopefully you do, but maybe you don't. So those are some of the things to consider. And then the other part two of that question was, what about a custom object? And that is a consideration. That's probably something you're going to want to give a little bit more thought to. It's a bit out of the scope of an answer on a webinar, but I would definitely check out the Getting Started group, or I think, and there's also a program management group on the hub.
Yes, there is a program management group in the Power of Us hub, and I would also recommend just searching program management first in the hub and seeing what people are talking about around the subject. But the system administrators group in the Power of Us hub is sort of a catch-all. So that would be another good place to pose the question. But there's definitely a lot of great organizations using Salesforce to manage programs. Anything else, Anne?
We do have a question. When is the next webinar?
Funny you should ask. So thank you. We hope you'll join us at the same time next week for Configure and Customize Salesforce for fundraising. Anne, who is answering questions today, will be leading the charge there, and I'll be behind the scene answering some of your questions. So you can find the registration link for that webinar in the Getting Started group in the Power of Us Hub. You'll also get an email after this webinar with a recording and a link to the slides. And that should also prompt you to sign up for the next webinar as well. Anything else, or should we give folks a few minutes back in their day?
Yep, that's it, Anne. I think we've kind of gotten all the rest on the chat.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. And please continue to connect with both Anna and I in the Power of Us Hub and keep in touch as you're getting started. We are here to help, and there are a lot of other wonderful community members who want to help you too. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.